So the first time I knew something was wrong with my body, I was 18. I had just turned 18, and I was in Austin, Texas for the Baylor UT football game. We had parked really far away, and there was a pretty steep walk to the stadium, and then we had nosebleed seats, so there was a pretty steep walk up to our seats. And when I got back that night, my joints were on fire. They were hot, they were red, they were swollen. I've always had problems with my joints, with my knees in particular. So I just kind of chalked it up to, oh, we just walked a lot today. There's a lot of physical exertion involved. So that's what's going on. I went back to my dorm in Waco, which is about an hour and a half away, and got a heating pad, got some compression sleeves to put over my knees on the way home. Kind of thought I'd be feeling better within like a day, because normally if I just at that point slept it off, I would be fine. And it didn't go away. It kept getting worse. I started developing sores in my mouth. I had a low-grade fever for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't do more than just get up and go to class. I was sleeping easily 15 hours a day. At that point, my birthday is in November, and so I was getting ready for the semester to end. I was already kind of unhappy at Baylor, so I was planning on transferring and moving home, or at least considering it. When all of this started happening, I first suspected RA. And my mom is a nurse, and so I was really fortunate to have her background and expertise as I was discerning, what I should do. And during Thanksgiving break, which was basically the end of the semester for us, we had Thanksgiving break, dead week, and then finals. I packed and I went home, and I saw the doctor for the first time. My primary care physician ordered an ANA, and it was positive. And so at that point, he had enough lab evidence to refer me to a rheumatologist so that my insurance would cover it. And I struggled with this rheumatologist for about 3 years. He would tell me that I have lupus, but then he would also try to tell me that I was making everything up and that it was all in my head. I was retaining water, and that's why I was swelling, or I was just depressed, because I also have a background of sexual abuse. And so he was kind of trying to pin everything on this abuse thing that had happened. And even though my tests, and this is the crazy part, my labs weren't normal. He would run my antibodies, he would run my ANA, and none of that would be normal. And I also ended up losing, I think in a year, like 15 pounds without trying. And I'm a pretty thin person. I've always been really thin. And so to lose like 15 pounds just without trying was very obvious and made me look very, very unhealthy. And so at that point, I chose to see a rheumatologist in Austin. His name is Dr. Paul Pickrell. I was referred to him by a coworker of my mom's who has RA, and she's been seeing him for many years. And I received a diagnosis the same day I visited him. So, and that was mixed connective tissue disease, which for me is an overlap of polymyositis, lupus, SLE, Sjogren's, and in some cases they say RA, though I don't really have the markers for it. Some of the symptoms are very similar. So at that point, we started Plaquenil, which is an anti-malarial that's commonly used in SLE patients, and it didn't work by itself. I was also in a lot of pain. My former rheumatologist had kind of maxed me out on NSAIDs, and I ended up developing a stomach ulcer from that. So NSAIDs were out of the question as far as pain management goes. I started hydrocodone, PRN, and then I guess it was January 2015, we realized that this treatment plan wasn't working, which was about 6 months after my initial diagnosis. I was diagnosed in June of 2014. So that's when we added the low dose of steroids, which was 10 milligrams of prednisone, and an opioid patch called Butrans. So between all of that, and then making some lifestyle changes and dietary changes, I seemed to have everything under control. Then I got pregnant in October of last year. And so I had to pretty much go off all of my medication. And that's where I am now. I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm delivering my son in 3 weeks. And after that, I hope that I'll be able to go back on the regimen I was on. And hopefully pregnancy hasn't changed my body to the point where it doesn't work. But some of those medicines can pass through the placenta and through the breast milk. So as long as I'm pregnant or breastfeeding, I won't be able to take them. I'm also going to be undergoing testing for Crohn's disease. So there's a chance I could be on some medication for the Crohn's that also works for lupus. But post-pregnancy, my plan is right now to go back to taking everything I was taking plus a medicine to help with the Sjogren's syndrome, because that's gotten a little out of hand in the last 9 months.